Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar Write, Edit and Plan Directly in Qlik. My name is Thomas Gore. I am the product manager of Write at Inform. Inform is located in Aachen, Germany. Aachen is near to Cologne or Brussels. Inform is a software company with about 800 employees, and we are mostly specialized in AI algorithms and operations research. And of course, we do have a business intelligence department with currently 32 employees. And within this department, we created our product Write, which I'd like to introduce to you today. To tell you a little story what Write is, I'd like to start with this slide where we can see the current situation of Qlik, where we take a look to customer systems who do not have implemented Write yet. So as all of you know, Qlik is a perfect BI tool to load different data sources. So for example, you can combine SAP system with an Oracle database, add an Access database and a text file, combine the data from all the data sources, transfer them through an ETL process and show very powerful dashboards on the front end. But this is currently a one-way direction. So you just start loading your data from the data sources here, push them to Qlik and show them on the front end. So this means that currently you cannot touch the data. Do not touch the data means that you cannot interact with them. So you cannot write comments, you cannot edit data, change data, and you cannot do any planning directly in Qlik. Of course, you have the full power of the associative engine to do high performant analysis of your data, but you cannot just simply add a comment, for example. This led us to develop our product Write and marry this product with Qlik. And Write enables you to edit and plan your data directly in Qlik. And this changes the one-way direction to a two-way direction, which means that, of course, we are in the simple Qlik environment where we load the data directly to Qlik. But inside of Qlik, we can now change the data, edit them and plan them, and write them back directly from Qlik to a database. The key features of Write, Edit and Plan in Qlik are, for example, editing data in Qlik, starting with a simple comment. Therefore, we have several input types like free text boxes, check boxes, drop-down menus, calendars, and so on. Then we are able to securely write back data to our source database. And of course, we can start with a simple planning where we will deepen in a few minutes and go on to an effective and complex planning like profit and loss planning, liquidity planning, and so on. Combined, the combination between Qlik and Write allows us now to do the fast data analysis and of course, changing the data directly in one system. So you do not have to leave the Qlik, the data discovery engine to just write a comment, for example, as you might do it today in Excel or in SAP. You can just do it directly in one tool, and after changing data, you can see the results immediately. This means that we now change from do not touch the data to please touch the data. So we are now able to interact with the data within Qlik, just between the combination of Qlik and Write. Today's webinar is divided into two parts. So I will shortly start with the first part, where I will be talking about functionalities and use cases. So I will show you our demo applications and our extensions. And in the second part, we will have a technical deep dive where I will show you how the extensions are configured and how our backend works, how the database logic works. So we are automatically storing data to any database, and you do not have to write any source code, any SQL statements on your database your own. We do this fully automatically, and how all the write magic works in the background, I will show you later on. So to start with the first part, functionalities and use cases, I will now switch to my Chrome browser, where I have opened our Qlik Sense applications. We have two applications, Write Sales, which is open currently, and afterwards we will directly jump into Write Plan application. As you can see here, we just simulated this application as if it was just a simple dashboard, like any of your existing apps on your system, where we can show some data. This application focuses on a sales planning for a fashion productive company. And this is just a classical dashboard where we can see the actual sales plus the forecast in the future. We have some simple KPIs like the top 5 customers current year, the top 5 products current year, just to give you the point that this is a standard dashboard and Qlik can be integrated in any Qlik Sense application. To show you directly what you are waiting for, I will jump to our order forecast sheet. And what we can see here, again, is a simple dashboard, with simple KPIs, total sales, the total sales open and confirmed, and so on. And this table here is not a Qlik native table. This is our write edit table. So we have a couple of products and all started with this write edit table. And I now would like to introduce you into this functionality. First of all, this edit table shows you the data coming from your data model, like any other table from Qlik also does. But what you cannot do within this table is do a selection. So if I click in here, nothing happens because our focus is not to select any data sets and to discover the data sets. Our focus is to make them editable. So I can just click in one cell, which I have defined previously, that this is a numerical editable cell, and just change a value. For example, I can now say, for this order ID and this item number, the forecast now changes from 200 euros to 400,000 euros, change it here, click on the save button, and as we can see now, the data are saved to the database, and a reload happens, and we can then see all the changes directly in our data model. So what I have done now is I saw the data, I visualized the data in Edit, I edited them, saved them, and that's it. That's with just one click, I have changed the data and stored them to a database. Of course, we have several types of inputs. As you can see here, our table is defined in two different colors. So we said that the orange columns are not editable, and each column, which is in this light and gray, is now editable. So for example, what we have here is a date column where I just can click in, and then an input field in type of calendar input occurs, where I just can now change a date, for example. So for example, I can change a delivery date, a due date, a date of production, and so on. And we have some shortcuts here. So of course, I can just switch between the months and select another date. And with just one click, I can jump on today's date. Or if I want to say that this item will be produced in 2021, I can just use our deep dive where I click on this header line and then just can deep dive directly into the year, the month, and just pick my date when the date of production, for example, will be. Customer and article are defined in the same way. So here we can see a drop-down menu, and a drop-down menu is useful if you want to give the user a predefined set of data. So in this case, for example, you would be able to change an article in our demo, and you do not want the user to write his own article in a wrong way, or just create new articles. You want him to pick all existing articles from one list. Of course, we can now see all our articles from the company. And as these are many articles, I can just use our smart search. So for example, if I start typing TR, I get all the articles where TR occurs within this string. And now I'm searching for example, for the tracksuit. Next to it, we do have a checkbox, and checkbox are always useful for binary conditions. So for true, false conditions like here, confirmed or not confirmed. If you have more than two opinions where you can choose from, so for example, some statuses, open, confirmed, declined, for example, then we would use a drop-down for this use case. But here we can now say it's confirmed or it's not confirmed and just click it and change the data. As I have shown you before, we have some small input fields which are exactly in the size of the cell, where we just, for example, can change a numerical value. And for the numerical values, we have two different types. So either we have a currency, like here, where we can add a currency symbol, like the euro symbol, or we have just a number where we just can define a value. Of course, we are now able to define the decimal size. So here we do not have decimals, and here we do have one. And I just can start editing the data. What we can see here, all the cells I have entered and changed a value, we now see an orange triangle in the right upper corner. And on the left side, on the column side, there's a orange pipe too. And this shows us that we have changed those data cells, but not saved them yet. So these are my current changes. And I do not have, I haven't clicked on the save button already. So now it's my opinion where I can take a look at and just take a look if these values are correctly. And if I say, okay, this is not correct, I can just click the cancel button. And now I have restored the original data sets. But of course, I can now go to this value again, change the 400,000 to 120, click the save button. And what will happen as soon as I click the save button, the orange triangle will change to blue. And blue means this is our hybrid feature, write hybrid feature. This means that the data has been stored to the database, but they are, of course, not directly inside of Qlik, because Qlik needs a full reload or a partial reload to let the data occur in the application. And the hybrid feature means that we do not want to wait for the reload of Qlik to be finished, because we want a live view of our change data. For example, if I add a comment, I want to see the comment immediately and not wait for the whole reload. Of course, to see the changes in the KPIs, in the native KPIs, we do need to wait for the whole reload, but this is just for the user that he has changed the data successfully. So if I now click the save button, it changes to blue, and now it's in the database. And as soon as the reload occurs, the blue triangle will be removed. And this means now this data is now inside of the Qlik Sense application and is available for all my employees, all my colleagues, which are in the same app too. Next to it, we have, we do offer you simple edit modes, like I said before, calendar, checkbox, dropdown, and so on. And of course, we do offer you a simple planning within this edit extension. So as I said before, we have this edit extension is built like a straight table from Qlik, like a sum table where we see the data by line. And we are now able to set cell references by line, like in Excel, where we can say A1 plus B1 equals C1. And here we see this column average price. This column is of course not editable, but this is an edit mode which is called calculated. And we defined the average price column to take the sales and divide it by the quantity. You might say now, okay, this is not a new feature because Qlik can also calculate an average price. Yes, it can, but it needs to reload. And this is a live calculation. So if I enter the quantity, change it from 3 to 5, we immediately see the impact on the average price. And this enables us now to build up a simple planning like a price calculation where you have the total cost of production and then add the margin and remove a discount, for example, and then get the total price for the selling value. Okay, I can now either save the save button again or click a cancel button because the average price isn't okay for me. Next to it, we do have the possibility to create new data sets. As we can see here, this is a feature which can be enabled, which must not be enabled. If you click the add button, you get an empty row. And in this example, you could create a new order ID and a new item number. And this enables you to add a new forecast directly in Qlik. If you are asking what those preload buttons are, I'd like to show you another example first. Let me select one customer, like the customer Boombastic, which is a fantastic name for a customer. Now we do not see the preload buttons, but we see some input fields. And those are global input fields. This feature is called Write Global Inputs. And those global input fields allows us to do global changes or bulk changes. So if I just click in one of those lines here, I will immediately change all the selected data rows. I do not have to enter each cell, change it to 10, 10, and so on. I just can enter the global input field, say 10, and all sales will be changed to 10, which would now allow me to do a bulk change on the database side. While we saw the preload button, I unselect the customer Boombastic to show all the data. And the preload button means that we must know all the data to do a bulk change, because we do not want to load all the data after each selection, because this would be a huge amount of data loading impact. We have implemented data paging. So if I start scrolling, we can see short times where we reload the data, which goes very quick. And as soon as I have loaded all the data, so scroll down to the button, I will be able to do bulk changes. On the other hand, if I'm lazy and I do not want to scroll down to the button, I just can click the preload button, and this enables us to load all the data which are now directly in the data model, and now I can do the bulk changes on all data rows I have loaded in here. Of course, you would start with a simple use case. So from our side, we do not know any customer which didn't ask if it's possible to do a comment in Qlik. And of course, this is the simplest and most asked use case, which we can also handle with the Write Edit extension. So I have changed to another sheet where we can see for each customer and each sales rep the sales current year versus last year. And then we have a comment input. If I click in here, we do get a text input, but not now it's not as big as the cell. It's just like a pop-up where I can now just enter bigger amounts of text and just change the data here. All right. So this was our Write Edit extension, again, which allows us to show the data like in a straight table, and view the data by line and change some data. Next to it, we have released our very new write form extension, which we can see on this sheet. Write form has the same behavior like edit, but we are not looking at the big amount of data. We are looking at exactly one data row. So in this extension, for example, we have defined two dimensions, order number and item number. And as the text shows us, this extension forces us to select exactly one data row. So if I go into here, just say item number 4, we can see that there is exactly one order number. Then we can see on the left side that we have selected exactly one row, and this enables us to let the forms extension render. And the form extension, as I said, is the same like in edit, but just visualized more like a web formula, as you know. So it's more it's predefined to work on exactly one data row, but you have the same edit modes like in the edit extension. For example, we do have the calendar input field here. We do have the drop-down boxes here, and we have the confirmed button and the text inputs. And of course, we could also add a bigger text area for bigger comments. But what's very interesting here, if I change the sales forecast to 6,000, for example, we do see that those two fields has been edited. So now it's not the orange triangle, but this edit mode icon. And as soon as I will click the save button, we will immediately see that this confirmed button and this sales will change to the changed value. So we implemented a communication between all of our extensions. So they are sharing a state, they are communicating directly without waiting for the click reload to appear. So if I click the save button, we now see the confirmed button and the sales amount here with the blue triangle. And as soon as the reload has finished, the triangle will be removed. One big feature in this extension, which was also released in our new Write 3.2 released yesterday, is the write conditionals. And with the conditionals, you can set multi-user rights to enable a user to edit a column or a data field or not. So in this extension, we have defined that all the dates which are in the future can be edited, but if I select the date in the past, it cannot be edited. So this is a conditional edit mode. So I remove the selection of item number 4 and select item number 3, where we can see that this date is in the past. And as you can see, I cannot click on the date and it's not editable. And this enables us to define multi-user permissions. For example, you could say, okay, user A is allowed to change a date, but not the customer, but user B is allowed to change the customer and then not the date. And he, in addition, he can also add a comment. So this is one of our big new features. And by the way, the extensions, the write edit and the write form extension, which I am showing you today, has been TED accredited last Friday. So we finalized the accreditation process with Qlik. To tell you a little bit more about TED, TED stands for Trusted Extension Developer, and this is a certification by Qlik. Qlik does a full code review of our extensions and ensures that there are no security vulnerabilities and that you use the APIs correctly. So this is a huge quality mark, and both the extension we can see here are now trusted extensions by Qlik and will be shown in the on the Qlik market in a few days. One more thing before I start switching to the plan extension, I'd like to introduce you in how we store the data. So not from the technical way, but from the functional way. As we can see here, This is our data history table for the edit table. So we can see the order number, the item number, date, and so on. But what we can see are some duplicates. So for example, we see this order number 1024.8 with this item number 479. And what I'd like to show you is the version history here. We can now see which data set has been changed when, by whom, and what's the current version of this data set. And of course, we do track all the changes who have been made. So the status has been changed from undefined to 1 to 0, for example. So this means as soon as you hit the save button, we do not overwrite any data in the database. We have two tables in the database. One is called data for each endpoint, which will I show in the technical deep dive. And the data endpoint, you see the live data of the last change data, and then we have a history table where we track all the changes, and additionally we also track some information like, as I said before, the save timestamp, the version number, the author, and so on. All right, so this was all about write edit and write forms from the functional way. Now I'd like to go to the second application, which is called write plan. And again, here we start with a dashboard. So what we can see here, again, our top 5 customers, revenue per region and year, top 5 sales rep. And in this example, we are again a fashion company, but now a different fashion company. And what's very interesting for us here, we do sales planning within this application. What we can see here is our actual revenue, 40 million euros. And our budget for the year 2020 with 53 million euros. But you may be asking, where does the budget come from? So if you have not implemented write on your system yet, this budget probably comes from SAP or Excel or any external data source, but we can now show the data directly in Qlik and create new plans directly in Qlik. So if I go to the next sheet, we can see this is the sheet sales plan. And this is our beautiful planner extension, which is not rendering yet because there's similar to forms a restriction, because we need to select exactly one budget or one plan to interact on. So we have here this selection box, and there are some plans, some budgets. And first of all, I'd like to see my actual data. So I select actuals, and now here it is. Now it's rendering. Before I start introducing you into the plan extension, I'd like to select exactly 1 year. And yeah, as you can see now, this extension is not built like a straight table, it's built like a pivot table. So here, this extension, the write plan extension, focuses on several distribution algorithms like top-down and bottom-up algorithms for numerical values regarding on the hierarchy levels you have defined for your planning before. To explain this hierarchy levels, so we defined 4 levels. On the first level, and with level I mean dimensions, on the first level we see our company, and we see that our company made in the year 2018 a total amount of 12.4 million euros. Our company is divided into several regions: North, East, South, and West. And if I open the region North, we see that there are 2 sales reps, Decker and Sommer, and each sales rep has its own customers. So, and the logic of this table, first of all, means that we calculate from the bottom to the top. So for example, here we have 2 customers at Sommer, Golden Design and 40 Towers, with 58 and 19,000 euros, which are in sum 77 euros. And Decker plus Sommer equals to North, and so on. The same way, we do not just calculate on a vertical way, we also calculate on a horizontal way. So this means the sum of each period of all the 12 months equals the total sum at the end of the line here, 12.4 million euros. What I can do now is, let's imagine we have the actuals from 2018 and I'd like to create a new budget for 2020, for example. I have now selected actuals 2018. This is my base where I now can create the new plan. And how you can create a new plan is just click on Create New Plan, and then a new pop-up occurs. And this pop-up needs 3 inputs. So what's your planning factor for the next budget? So I'd like to say I want to do 10% up next year. The budget name is today's webinar for the year 2020. So I now click on OK. And now the planner recalculated all the values and added 10% up. So as we can see, the 12.4 million now changed to 13.6 million euros. Okay, let me just click the Save button. Now we have stored the data to the database. The reload of Qlik happens. And if I unselect the year and go back to the budget plan, we can now see our new budget, today's webinar. So what we have done now, we took a look to our actuals, which come from SAP, for example. Then we copied this actuals and raised it with 10%, gave it a new budget name, today's webinar, and here the data are directly in Qlik and are now editable. So as we can see here, all the columns are now green, and I just can click into them and start changing values. So let me introduce you into our algorithms. As I said before, we do have a bottom-up and a top-down algorithm, but they are divided into several use cases. So for example, if I enter this cell, here at Decker and August, we just have one entered value for the Warp AG with 39,000 euros. And if I add the value to Davenport Fashion, for example, 10,000 euros, this new value, the difference of the entered value, will be calculated bottom up to the top. So I just click enter, and 39 changed to 49, 99 to 109, and so on in the column August. And the same happened here for the sum. So if I change one value in the month, the value will also be changed in the total column. This is the easiest way to sum up the differences. And of course, we do have some top-down algorithms. I just clear the data in here. So as you can see, the 10,000 will be removed again. I go to summer because we have 2 customers. And let me introduce you now in our top-down algorithms. So there are 2 use cases. We have either an equally distributed algorithm or a weighted distributed algorithm. So the first part, the equally distributed algorithm, will always be activated if all values, all child values, are exactly 0, like in this case. So for example, if I go now into summer and change this value to 2000, all child values will get exactly the same amount. So we take the new amount which you have entered here and divide it by the amount of children and then distribute them equally. In addition, let me change it back to 0. We have also the possibility, which is the most common use case, to use distribution keys, distribution values. So for example, if I say Fawlty Towers gets 1 value and Golden Design 2, which are in total 3, now we have the situation that at least one value is does not equal to 0, so is higher or lower than 0. Then we have a weighted distribution, and if I change the 3 to 500 or 5,000, for example, we can see that the distribution value is kept and all the values are recalculated regarding their distribution before. Of course, this is the use case of the sales rep. So each sales rep will edit on exactly its own data. We also have the CEO cell where we can just enter the total sum. So this is the biggest aggregation of all the data, and me as a CEO or CFO can say, okay, 13.5 million is not enough. I need 15 million euros. Just enter a shortcut 50M, enter, and now we see that all the data has been recalculated directly within this table. Of course, we can now just save the data. They are now again stored back to the database and recalculated. And if I take a look here now to the bar chart, there we can see in the tooltip that the new value is now 15 million euros. All right. So let's imagine that you are currently in your budgeting process, and you say that you have entered all the budgets from January to March, and you want to fix those budgets. That's not a problem, because this is the best point where I like to tell you that we see our Write extensions not built for specific use cases, but they are built as a toolkit. So doesn't matter which data you see on your front end, if this is a sales plan, a cost plan, a liquidity plan, personal plan. From our perspective, these are just values behind, and we can use any values, doesn't matter which context they come from, to let the algorithms run over them. The same for the edit extension. So if you want to have a drop down in your customer or in your products or in your company divisions, just imagine if you have an existing table on your front end, you just can drag and drop the edit table over it, click convert into, and just can say, okay, this field is now editable as a text input or as a checkbox. Same like in plan. This is nothing more like a pivot table, but we make this pivot table editable, plannable with a lot of different algorithms. But you can, what I want to say, you can transfer any pivot table or straight table into a write table. All right, back to the story. We now want to say January and until March has been finished. And I go one sheet next, where we can see again our edit table. And now we see that we have a plan ID, a base year, and a base period. And here I can say base year is 2020, and then the base period is April. This just means that I can now fix the plan I have entered before, and I just, as soon as I click the save button, I store those data to the database. And if I go back to the plan extension now, we can see that all the months from January, okay, now to April, has been fixed. So if I click in here, they are not editable anymore. If I click into May, it's editable. So now we can just change values from May to December, or in higher years. So this enables us with the full power of Write to create several approval logics or workflows where we can say when is it editable and who is allowed to change which data. All the cases can be done in this extension. Yeah, one often asked question is are these extensions capable with section access? Yes, they are. This means if you have implemented a section access, which is something like a predefined selection, you could say that Mr. Decker or Mrs. Decker is just allowed to view its own data. So if I go to the sales rep and select Decker, now he or she just can see its own data, and of course he can just edit its own data. So in this case, he wouldn't be able to edit global data, but on the other hand, you could allow a manager to edit all the data, something like this. Okay, so this was the first part about the functionalities in Qlik. I'd like to go back to my presentation. and just show you a few more use cases. So let me talk about calculation and financial planning again. So as we have seen before, there was 4 hierarchical dimensions for our sales planning. Of course, we can also do a cost planning, as we can see here. Sorry. As we can see here, this is a plan on cost center levels where you just see your costs and then can, of course, compare them directly. We, of course, offer an P&L, so a profit and loss calculation. And this is one extension from us where we can visualize a P&L structure. This is a German P&L structure starting with the revenue and then followed by all the costs like personal costs, and so on. And what I like to show you here, what we can see on the left side is a cost planning, a personal planning, a revenue planning, and you plan here in a very detailed way, as we have seen before, so on a very granular perspective. And the number which results on the right upper corner, the total number, is then shown to the P&L structure. So here you have the detailed planning, and what you can see here is then the visualized result of all your plans you have done. Of course, we are also able to simulate. So again, we can see here the P&L structure. And on the right side, we see some range sliders. And those range sliders enable us now to just play around with the values. So let's say the revenue will be increased about 45% and the personal cost will go down about 54%. Don't know how this could work, but let's just imagine what will happen then. We then will see automatically the results in this case and are then able to enter the new values into the plan extension just to persist them into the database. Next to this, I have described it before, we are able to implement workflows because to take it on a very easy way, we just enable you to edit data, to change values, and what you do with those changed values is just up on your side. So it depends on your requirements. So in this example, we edit our edit table, and this edit table shows us all the plans which we have created. So all the budget names like here for each year and each cost center. So, and the controller, which has created the new plans for his own cost centers, can now say if one of those budgets is finished. So if he just click the save, the checkbox, he can say, okay, for this cost center, I have finished my budget. And he, of course, could add a comment. And then with the full power of Qlik, we have a data reload. And then the manager will see all the confirmed budgets from the controllers. And so what we can see here, layer plan, year 2015, and the cost center 41,500. And he now can say if he confirms this plan or not. So he can just confirm or play the ball back to the controller. So this is another slide about most common use cases which are currently implemented at our customers. In the middle is our product family Write. And Write, as I said before, is divided into several extensions like Write Edit and Write Form, which are visualized here in the orange section. So the most common use case is just adding comments. Then you can go over to workflow and security. What we mean with this is that with the setting or defining several flags, you can easily control which user is now able to do what kind of use case, don't know which data is he allowed to see. You can implement something like a CRM functionality. So this is a perfect use case for form extension, for example, where you enter just or take a look at exactly one customer and then say what's the total amount of revenue possible at this customer, how many workers are there, and what's the acquisition status, and so on. And one of our customers also uses the extension to manage the business hours of his stores. And next to it, we have some use cases for the planner, like budgeting, which starts with financial and liquidity planning or sales planning. We use several algorithms like top-down and bottom-up, and at the end of the day, we can implement a full P&L account planning. By the way, just as a fact from one of our customers, you might know Lufthansa. Lufthansa is the biggest German airline, and we have implemented the forecasting logic for the planner with them. So in combination, a strong partnership with our customer Lufthansa, and they changed their whole cost planning from SAP to Qlik. And in the project, we had a meeting and I introduced them into the plan extension and I created a new plan. By the way, they have 16 months in each year, not 12, but 16. They plan on a depth of 12 dimensions. And at the lowest level, we had about 200,000 data rows. So I created a new budget, clicked on the save button, and then I said, okay, this could take some time. And they asked me, okay, Mr. Goll, should we grab a coffee? And I said, no, yesterday as I tested it, it took about 20 to 30 seconds. And they just looked at me with big eyes and they said, but what's the problem? This is wonderful, because in SAP, it took about 3 to 4 hours to create a plan, change the data, save them, and let them recalculate. And with the power of write and Qlik, we have now a very big and good combination to be very quick with the power of Qlik and very effective with the planning with the power of write. Okay, all right. So this was the first part of our today's webinar, where I showed you the functionality and the use cases. And now in the second part, part two, I'd like now to give you a technical deep dive into our write extension. What I've shown you before are our functionalities and our use cases, and I will now go back to our extensions and just show you how they can be configured, how the connection to our backend works, how our backend looks like, and how the logic of storing data works.